Raw Christian Men's Podcast, tackling the important issues from a biblical perspective.
Welcome back to the Raw Christian Men's Podcast, a place for authentic, real-life discussion on faith, masculinity, and living as a Christian man in today's world. For today's episode, we'll be discussing money. How do we earn it, spend it, save it, and honor God with it? We have a full house tonight, and everybody is a returning guest. So we got Jim, Kyle, myself, then we have Luke, we have Aaron, and Tristan. So we should have a lot of feedback, a lot of good conversations. How are you guys doing?
Excellent.
Good.
All right. So
really good.
Pretty good.
So we don't go too long on this episode. Let's just dive right in and talk about money. It's I would say it's a pretty big concern for a lot of folks, and especially men, because as men, we're typically in a like the breadwinner role. Like we need to provide for our families and stuff. So we really focus on providing financially. But one of the things that we hear people talk about a lot is money. Is it evil? You know, They say that all the time. And you can kind of see both sides of the spectrum within the church. That, you know, some people say that having money and storing up money or saving up money at all is bad, and some people are on the opposite end. It's okay to store up as much as you want. So let's talk about it. Is money evil? What do you guys think?
No. It's just a tool.
I agree. Just
Yep, same.
Same? All right. Yeah, I would say money itself is not evil. 1 Timothy 6:10 says that love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. We hear money is the root of all evil, but we forget the first part of loving money is the root of all evil. It also exposes where our priorities are and our values are. Matthew 6:21 says, where your treasure is, that's where your heart is. It's pretty easy to find out where your priorities are based on how you're spending your money, right?
Yep.
So, and I would say because money is a tool, having an abundance of it, being wealthy in itself, isn't necessarily a problem. It's when we focus on nothing but money that money becomes like our master. It becomes a lowercase God, in one sense. And then a few verses later in Matthew 6:24, Jesus talking about money. He says you cannot serve both God and money, and he's talking about people that go and they're really striving to get as much money and stored up as possible. So.
Can't buy your way into heaven.
That's a very good point. So you guys have anything to add to that before we really get into the meat and potatoes of everything? Pretty good consensus of money in itself is not bad. Having a lot of it is not necessarily bad.
Right.
It's all based on how you're spending or how you're using that financial resource.
Right.
So I would say, I would go ahead and say a vast majority of people in society now have an unhealthy relationship with money. Would you guys agree?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. 65% of those living in the United States, think about that. 200 and some million people live paycheck to paycheck and don't know where their next meal's coming from.
And
You say 65%?
Mm-hmm.
Holy smokes.
What year did that number come about?
A couple of years ago.
Wow.
So I'd venture to say it's probably more than that now.
There's different studies showing different things. There's all kinds of people answer the studies in different ways, so you can get skewed results.
You got to challenge it a little bit. You know?
Okay, well, think about your friends.
Absolutely.
Think about your friends.
Yeah.
2 out of 3 are 2 out of 3 kind of living paycheck to paycheck and always talking about being broke.
Yeah.
See a lot of
especially college friends.
Yeah.
Or they're trying to move out, or they're living alone, or they all moved to a different state, so they're staying at the school. Or, I mean, I got lucky because I got to live at home for my first couple years of college, and then obviously I got married. But I mean, they didn't get to live at home at all, and they didn't have any money going into college, so it's definitely paycheck to paycheck.
And when you get older, you hang around like-minded people. So Kyle hangs around, with all these wealthy people. So.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. What the heck? Yeah, Jim.
And
Thanks a lot.
so, all right, let's dive into why we think that people live paycheck to paycheck. Because you hear, especially in like recent years, a lot of people talk about, like, especially younger people, they'll talk about how expensive it is to, they're looking for a home, how expensive it is to try to shop for a home, or how, we were just talking off
About
air about
trucks.
the price of vehicles, how much they've gone up.
Unreal.
Little side story, like it was probably been 10, 15 years ago, but like I bought a used Ram 1500. It was like, I think it was a 99, for like $2,000, but I bought it used. When I was cleaning it out, I found the original window sticker in the glove box. And this was a extended cab, 8-foot bed with like a 5.9 liter Magnum. So it was like not just a base package, but like, so the brand new price on that sticker was $19,000 in 1999. Looking at trucks now,
Yeah.
if you were to try to find something similar, you're looking at least probably 70,000
Yeah.
Minimum.
Oh, absolutely.
at least.
At least, yeah. Brand new off the lot, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So I can get where you're going to have an increase based on, cost of living is going to go up as, you have inflation, you have, as the value of the currency ebbs and flows, you're going to have changes in price in the market for whatever you're shopping for. But why do we live paycheck to paycheck?
In the richest country?
Yes.
Or
With the
our
most
money's already
opportunities.
spoken for.
Why is it spoken for?
Well,
we get
you
to choose?
got a mortgage payment. You got a vehicle. If you're a couple, there's probably two, and most people probably have two. And if you don't have a payment on a note, then you're probably working on the thing. And then you have just your groceries, your insurance. Phone and internet are now built-in that everybody has. I mean, that's $300 right there, easy. By the time you get your paycheck, what are you really seeing? I just saw something on this today. We're not in, we're living in kind of a survival mode. I mean, not we, but there's a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. What I kind of interested in finding out is how much of it is because we're chasing stuff that was outside of our reach, like trying to live beyond our means.
Yeah.
Yes, I get we have our necessities. We do have to pay for clothing. We do have to pay for food. We do have to pay for shelter, but some sort of transportation. But are we really living within our means in order to not be struggling financially? Or are we chasing that, that next best thing, or trying to keep up with the Joneses, and that's stretching us way too thin? And then you start worrying about your finances, and then that adds on to all the other stress. And
I think
there's that. Sorry, go ahead, Kyle.
I think that's a lot of what's going on, because you can buy a T-shirt for $15, or you can buy a T-shirt for $100. Mm-hmm. So you can find a way to, if you're just looking for travel, point A, point B, you can find a car and you can make it work. And you can drive it for years and years and years until the wheels fall off. Yeah, I mean,
But is it
Jim made a.
safe? But that's what I hear all the time. But I need a car that's safe.
Does it get you from point A to point B? If the answer is yes, then it's fine.
I mean, I drive
You want to
a.
hear something crazy about
No.
the vehicle side of things? My sister-in-law got into a vehicle that wasn't push to start, and she said, "I don't know how to start it. I can't drive this." It didn't have backup cam, and she just got out and said, "I can't drive."
I could barely
Wow.
figure out how to do the push button one.
Yeah, but she's what, 5 years younger than me. I mean, that's all she knows.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, she didn't grow up on a farm or anything where you had to clutch up a tractor or anything. But
The one that went to school with me?
no.
Oh.
No, she grew up in a big city, and
Okay.
so. But that's just a generational thing. She has no idea how to, turn an ignition key, let alone drive a stick, and that blows my mind. But in all reality, that's her reality. That's her truth. That's all she knows. So her baseline is already inflated. Mm-hmm. Because she's not going to go out and buy it. When did they switch to push to start? 16?
Somewhere.
2016?
Yeah,
That's a
something like
10-year-old car next year.
Yeah.
She's probably not going to buy a 10-year-old car. And she probably hadn't been around that. And 10 years ago, she'd have been 11. 11, I mean, when I was 11, I could start a truck. I got my
Yeah,
first
we were a
car
little
back when I was
different.
9. But when you start to look at that, you could call it the system. I don't like copping out and just blaming the system, but there's a whole generation where it's like, well, this is my normal, and I'm not going to settle for less than that.
Yeah.
And it's just,
Also comes down to values, what parents
Yeah.
teach their kids. If your parents teach you that you have to have brand new everything because they're buying the newest TV, the newest this, the newest
iPhone every year.
Yeah.
And
When you grow up in that environment, you grow up thinking I have to have all that. Well,
Yeah.
you're 20 years behind your parents in income, and you're trying to have all that to keep up.
Now.
That's where all those
Yeah.
payments come
Yeah.
in.
And it's so easy to get money. It's so easy to put your name on that line and get a note. I mean, I don't know when the last time you looked, but, wife and I are looking at, eventually someday trying to buy some ground. And I walked in and talked to an ag lender. I said, so what's it take? He goes, I need a business plan, a cash flow, and both your social security numbers. We can get something drawn up. I said, okay, so how's this work? You loan me $500,000 to buy ground and another $100,000 to operate on to build fence, get everything going. Then you loan me another $200,000 for cattle, and I just pencil whip and figure out how to pay for it. He goes, yeah, pretty much. I said, I could walk out of here with $1 million in debt. He's like, yeah, pretty much. He's like, it's not that hard. And it scared me. Because I'm like, that doesn't sound like fun.
It shouldn't scare you.
I mean, and it's like, it blew my mind how easy it was. Because I was saying, if we're going to do this in a couple years, I better start having conversations and putting a plan together. And he's like, no, you ready? Yeah, let's sign some papers. I'm like, no way, man. Not a fat chance, bud.
No. The fact that you were leery of that, or like not really wanting to rush into it, I mean, that's a good sign that you're ready to pump the brakes. There's a lot of people like,
Yeah, but the other
let's do it.
You guys do it, and they make it work. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm just-
ag is very different on that kind of stuff because my father-in-law is a farmer, so you see that where they carry these notes and they got seed loans and all kinds of stuff that they pay off at the end of the season. It's so much money up front. It's a little different than most of the rest of the people that live in America. They don't need to go out and do those kinds of things for business.
So let's talk about something that a lot more people can relate to then. Like, let's take college, for instance, right?
Yeah.
Scam.
That's
Hold on now,
that's
Aaron.
a whole other topic.
Hold on, Eric. Hold on.
But
Indoctrination, you mean?
yes, but that's a whole other topic.
Yeah.
But let's just talk about college and finance or paying for college, right? Yes, the price of going to getting an education, a higher education, has gone up. I would say exponentially since when I graduated high school, looking into college. That was 20 years ago.
Right.
I was looking at some of the state universities, and I could go to a state university paying $13,000 a year. You're looking at least that, if not double per semester now.
Yeah.
I think part of that is because they're charging it and people are paying it. They know that people are going to pay it. And then two, we're pushing you got to go to college, you got to go to college, you got to go to college. So hard to these kids coming out of school. Yeah. They don't think that there's any other option other than going to a college. So, and then of course, when they're thinking about college, they're wanting to go to the big name schools, and they're just getting these degrees. They're not doing a lot of research. And when they're getting these degrees, that may not necessarily pay them what they're actually paying into to get that degree. And then they're coming out of school and they're expecting to be able to afford that new house, that new car, that lifestyle that they've had growing up right out the gate. Yeah. But they're coming out of school $100,000 in debt because we're pushing education, a higher education, and they wanted to go that route instead of telling them that, hey, there's other options. You could go to a community college for your first year at least, get out or knock out all your prerequisites, pay $6,000 for that year. Yeah. Rather than paying $50,000 for that first year to get the exact same education.
I just want to make sure anyone who's listening, I'm absolutely for higher education. I don't have a college degree. I came out of school, went into a trade, and did very well. And anyone who goes into a trade can do very well. But if you're not going into a trade, a college education can open a lot of doors for you. And I think if you go out and look at Ramsey, you're going to find out that those educations can really, especially down the road, maybe not right at first, but as promotions come in, you're going to see higher pay coming into those jobs. However,
I think it depends on what you go for, though.
Yes.
Well, I was just talking to my boss the other day, and I was telling him how I want to be a manager, down the line. Yeah. And he's like, I can't even be certain positions within this company because I don't have a degree for it. Yeah. Sure, you have 25 years of experience, but he can't even get jobs.
Yeah, that's the way it's where I'm at. Like, if you want to get to a certain level, whether it be like a group leader or a product manager or an even higher manager, you need to eventually start working toward getting a degree. Now, what they'll do is that you can get the job, but you have to achieve, like, say you want to be a group leader. All right, you can get the group leader job. You're hired. You have 2 years to finish your at least an associate's degree. Mm-hmm. And typically they want it in some kind of technology, like industrial technology, manufacturing, leadership, something like that. Yeah. You want to be a product manager or higher, then yes, you got to have a bachelor's degree. But you get that job, you got so long to, if you don't have it yet, you have so long to acquire it. Otherwise, you'll lose that job. But you have these people that are going into school and they want to study philosophy. What are you going to do with the philosophy degree other than going and being a philosophy professor?
I don't know. That's a good question.
That's what I think. It depends on what you're going to school for. Yes, obviously, if you're going to be a doctor or if you're going to be a lawyer or an engineer, something like that, you need to make sure you go and you get that good higher education.
Yeah, your health fields, all that stuff.
I think there are certain vocations that definitely require a degree. There are some vocations that, quote unquote, require a piece of paper. Yeah. They want to see a degree, but they don't care what it's in. Okay, you want them to spend however many thousands of dollars to get that degree just because they have a bachelor's degree.
Yeah.
And I think, there are certain fields that should require a degree, but there are also certain fields that shouldn't require a degree. And I think that we're pushing college too much, and we need to push the trades as a legitimate option to a lot of these kids, because you're going to save them a lot of heartache, a lot of time that they could be wasting at school, because a lot of them, when they go to school, they're going to be partying, they're going to be doing all this stuff.
I think they are now, though, because
I don't think they are. But
see,
trades are looked down on.
Well, when I was in school, it was a big thing. Yeah. It was like, hey, we're like half
our generation.
Yeah, half our grade went to trades. Half our grade did not go to college.
So we had half day at high school,
career technical centers. Yes.
And I got a lot of buddies that went that route.
Yes. But welders and pipe fitters.
Here's my hot take on this thing. You're asking an 18-year-old. Think about when you were 18. Because when I was 18, I was missing, a couple sandwiches out of the basket here, We weren't sharpest tool in the shed. You're telling me that we're going to saddle an 18-year-old with all this debt?
Yeah.
And they're going to understand what that means moving forward?
Exactly.
No way. I mean, I think if it's a family thing and your parents are helping and, this is a predetermined path and everybody's into that and you know what you're doing and you have a good understanding of it, I think it's great. And it can do a lot for a lot of people. But I think just pushing everybody into this metaphoric cattle corral of you're all going to do the same thing, there's some stragglers there that are getting left behind. And, I mean, I'll just tell you, my wife's got a master's degree. She's been unemployed for 4 months. You think they're not calling on that note? No. Old Dumbo down the road bitching cattle manures, figuring it out.
Yep.
So, has it helped her get to where she wants to be? Absolutely. But it's a double-sided deal.
The key to higher education is the cost and how you pay for it. So, is it worth it? Well, I would say yes, if you pay for it. If you take out $250,000 in loans to get a degree that earns you $38,500 a year, no,
Exactly.
you'll be saddled for the rest of your life.
Preach it, Captain Jimmy.
If you pay cash for college, if you go to a community college and get your first 2 years in your associates at a third or less of the cost, and you work while you're going to school, yes, it can be done.
I do it right now.
Yes.
I'm a prime example of that. Working 40 hours a week and going to school.
And then when you get that associate's, you get a little pay bump, and then you go get the rest of your degree, and maybe you do some online but you don't go out of state, or you don't go to a private university that costs $60,000 or $90,000 a year, and get a degree that's going to earn you $38,000.
Yeah.
That makes no sense. So yes, if you're smart about it, and that means you pay for it as you go, or if you come out with a little bit of debt, I understand the concept. But let me tell you this. If you come out with $100,000 in debt, you better have $100,000 income to try and offset it. Because after your taxes, after your insurance, after your mortgage or your rent, after your car, after everything else, it's going to take you 3 or 4 years to pay off $100,000, making $100,000.
And I think another option, though, I mean, there are many options that I think people don't actually think about. I know my job, there's a lot of other jobs that do the same thing. They'll do tuition reimbursement. Yeah. So you don't have to necessarily have a college degree to get into a lot of these jobs, but a lot of these jobs, they understand that the higher up, if you're ambitious and you want to climb and you want to, achieve a certain level of, success, you got to have that degree. They're willing to pay you as it's like a loyalty almost. So hey, you go to school. Certain degrees are going to be, qualified, but go to school. You turn in your grades at the end of that semester. You get a certain level or above. We'll reimburse you for what you paid in your tuition. So essentially, you're getting all your money back that you put in towards school, and you're working on the side, and you're earning money while going to school. Some people might consider it controversial, but the military. I was dead set when I was like 15, 16, I'm not going. My dad was pushing it. Like, I'm not going to the military. Well, something changed.
Your frontal cortex is like half done at that point.
Yeah. I went in, active duty, got pay. I got a lot of life experience. I got a lot of job experience, came out. But a lot of people don't understand is I'm getting ready to turn 40. I'm getting ready to finish my degree. I haven't paid a dime for my education. It was all paid by the U.S. government because as a incentive of when I joined. It was all part of that GI Bill. Right. So I came, we got out. I worked on it slowly, but I was able to put all that GI Bill money toward my education. And I didn't have to worry about paying a dime for it. Plus I was working at the same time, getting paid to go to school essentially. A lot of people don't think about that stuff. They just dive right into school, get all that money and the student loans,
like Fannie Mae.
But you don't have to worry about it at the time. You don't have to worry about paying it back until you're done with school.
Right.
You don't think
But then
about
it all
it.
hits you at once
And then it
after
hits
you're
you at
done.
once.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You get what, 6 months after you finish school before those payments start kicking in or something like that?
Yep.
Well, that's what we're trying to say. It's not, nobody here is anti-college. We're just anti going into anything blind and not having a plan.
I don't think we like the agenda behind college that people push, especially when you're young.
Yeah.
I mean, I know people who had if they had went to college, they would have failed. Like they were
College is not for everybody.
No, it's
I'll
not.
tell you what.
And they went into the workforce and they're on their apprenticeship making $25, $30 an hour right now, making a good living, living by themselves, or even, if they have a girlfriend or whatever. Like, I know we always kind of joke as men, like, oh, women cost money, but like they really do. So they, I'm not kidding. And
So we'll refer to this conversation before this when I threw my back out, get in the oven. It's a necessary. I can't cook.
but they're making good livings, and they are.
I think you made a good point. Like you have friends that would have, if they would have went into college right after school and they would have flunked out,
They just spent a whole bunch of money for
you're
no
still
reason.
paying that money
Went
back.
to
Yes.
jail.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
Yeah.
You're still paying that money back. But anyway,
So you're saying wise decisions.
yes.
Make wise decisions.
Make
Yeah.
wise
Wise.
decisions.
Understand
and how do you make
Yeah.
wise decisions coming out of high school?
Discernment.
Parents.
Prayer.
Parents have to be behind
You
you.
have
Yep.
to be open
Yes.
to the suggestions and
Alternative.
everything. Yeah.
Understand what you're getting into before you get into.
I would say if you're out there listening and you're young or you got kids, I told my kids, you should really ask around, find out what people do for a living. Especially my daughter, she was looking at certain fields and like, go talk to those people in those fields. And you have this idea in your head, go ask those people out there. There's a lot of wise people out there that will tell you about their job, what they do, how to do it, what to expect. And if you can go out there and you're young and you got to get a little bit of an idea before you go spend a whole bunch of time trying to figure it out, spending money, then you're way ahead.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The Bible is very clear about money, mentions money over 500 times. Actually, it might be over 2,000, but I can't remember. So it mentions money a lot. And it talks about the diligent prosper. It talks about those who plan. Don't start a project without counting the cost first and knowing what you're going to do. Don't just go blindly in and just sign up for stuff because it's free today and it won't kick in for 4 years. Mm-hmm. There's plenty of things that, and many counselors make wise decisions. That's my paraphrase. But all those things are in the Bible, and they go directly to how you should be towards money and towards earning a living and those kind of things. And it's very insightful. You can just read Proverbs, and Proverbs alone talks a lot about money. And people, I hear a lot of high school students. I spend a day with them once a year. They talk about, what are you going to do? I'm going to be a gamer. I'm going to get that game. 'Cause, there's 18, 19-year-old millionaires right now because they made a game that was a hit and got paid. Somebody bought it up for $2-3 million. But that's like
One in every million
Right.
some people.
that's like being on the Super Bowl winning team in football. How many kids tried
Yeah.
to get to that level and never got there? And
Yeah.
there's only that group of 60 or so guys that are there. So out of the millions and millions and millions of teens, one or two get it. So they say, that's what I want to do. They don't count the cost. They just think I'm going to do that. Well, the Bible says those who act that way are going to end up very poor.
Yeah.
And what it says is, I'll paraphrase, but those who want quick results are going to end up poor. Get rich quick doesn't work.
Yeah.
You're going to end up poor. Only the diligent prosper. Little by little. The Bible says little by little you gain.
Yeah.
And little by little. And that's by effort, and that's by understanding and wise decisions and wise counsel and all those other
So you're
things.
talking about Proverbs, and I got a verse right here. It's from Proverbs 21:20, and it says, "There is desirable treasure and oil in the dwelling of the wise, but a foolish man squanders it."
Yeah.
Like you're talking about, constantly having, have some sort of mindset about your money before you go to spend it on everything.
And that goes to wealth too. You can store up.
Mm-hmm.
oil.
Well, we talk about generosity also in the Bible.
Absolutely.
It says that a lot.
It does. It goes hand in hand. But
Yeah.
But for people who say the Bible says you shouldn't have wealth, Proverbs disputes that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Proverbs will tell you that no, there are reasons that God allows people to become wealthy and blesses people to become wealthy. Yeah. If I make $100,000 and I tithe 10%, that's $10,000. If I make $1 million and I tithe 10%, that's $100,000. By the way, if I make $1 million, not only do I tithe 10%, I'm probably giving away another 20 or 30%. So I'm giving away $400,000 because I can live on so much less if I'm blessed in that way. Mm-hmm. And there's plenty of people in the world. You know, I like to hear about the 1%. And I'll remind everybody in America, you're in the top 5% just by living in America. And if you got a cell phone, you're in the top like 2%. So let me just be clear to everybody who thinks the 1%, you're almost there because you live in America. Anyway, but there are people who make millions and millions of dollars, but they give away millions. So, you know, some of the stories about people who become independently wealthy, if you will, and they're multi or you know, hundreds of millions or even $1 billion, but they might give away $300 million to worthy causes. So if that's what you're doing with what you've gotten, it is not evil by any stretch. Mm-mm. It is what God's doing to reach people.
Yeah.
There's many people in the Bible that had wealth that were blessed.
Oh, yeah.
Their wealth really meant, it was a tool. It meant nothing. Their relationship with God meant everything. So that's why they got blessed.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, one more point before we really get on to like the healthy relationship with money. I think Jim brought up a good point of like the streamers or the gamers where, somebody hit gold with you know, whatever that is. And that happens across every, you know, industrial or
facet.
Yeah, every facet, like any kind of employment. Same thing with like YouTube, right?
Yeah,
they're the early guys that got into YouTube. They saw something, they recognized that there could be something there. They worked their butts off, and they got rewarded for it. And then people see that now, and like, okay, I want to do that. It's gonna be easy money. But the market is so saturated now that the chances of you actually making any money off of it are slim to none.
And what you don't see is the 20 years worth of work they put in.
Yes.
You just see the overnight success.
Yep.
Or all the countless hours that they spend recording and editing, all that other stuff that they're willing to do because they know what works. They found a formula that works for them, and they got rewarded financially. People see that, like, okay, I can make money by making videos and putting it on YouTube. But that the market is so saturated now, and that goes across all avenues. I mean, it could be, you know, think about business. Like somebody thought of, let's just talk about like, say, Steve Jobs, and like when they were creating, you know, the Apple brand, right? How saturated is the technology market now?
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of people looking to get that still, but you're not like, they got in on the ground floor at the right time. And you can say that for a lot of different things. You have to have like a very cutting edge plan or cutting edge idea at just the right time to strike gold. A lot of these people see this and like, okay, I'm going to chase this because I know it's working. You're not going to necessarily achieve the same level of success because you're not bringing anything new to the table.
For everyone that's a household name, there's hundreds of thousands that failed miserably.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Think about crypto. What's crypto up to now? $120,000 or whatever. But think about
one, like one Bitcoin is like millions of dollars.
But how many people got into crypto and got wiped out and had hundreds of millions of dollars in investors and did all this stuff and got wiped out? That you don't hear those stories. It's
Tell you what, if I could have put 10 cents in when it started, I wish I would have.
You'd have a couple $100,000 right now.
Yeah.
But if you would have put your 10 cents into one of the 100 other wrong ones, you'd have lost it all.
Yep.
You have to be lucky to get into that one, and you don't know what it is. So
it's like almost gambling.
it is.
It is.
So you shouldn't. Gamblers never tell you about their losses.
No.
They always tell you about their winnings.
Yeah.
Same. I mean, like the people that play lottery. I mean, if you play lottery, you know, to each their own.
Yeah.
I think about what I do with the winnings if I ever won, but I never play. But think
It's
about
not worth it.
think about how many thousands, like tens, to, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars that people burn just yearly for a chance of like trying to hit that jackpot. You don't ever hear about one person hits a jackpot and you might hear about winning $500 million. How many people played and bought into that?
Enough to make $500 million.
And you see, when we're talking here, as I hear everybody talking, it's exactly why America has gotten to the point that they have. There's such a desire for money that it's like you talk about $500 million or somebody makes $1 billion and there's a desire from everyone else to make that. So they don't count their blessings in what they have. And I can tell you straight out for myself, my goal was to prove everyone wrong. I didn't need a college education to be successful. I could get there on my own. And I had all these goals, and so I chased money, and you can acquire it in America, just by working hard, not being lazy, and going after something, and having a mindset and a plan. And then once you get that, you start getting addicted to it. And it's just like you see somebody else that got a little bit more, and you think, oh, I can do that, or I can do that. And you constantly, in America, where we're so wealthy, it's like money's everywhere. And everybody desires money, everything. And there's financial advisors everywhere. And it pushes you into that mindset of, I want more, I want more, I want more. You see a big fancy truck, you want more. So it becomes that instead of using it as a tool. It becomes a desire. So you're not using it as a tool. You're not looking at a way to plan, like, what do you want your money for? I mean, is it to have a family? That's where a lot of people should be thinking. I want to acquire wealth just to take care of my family, take care of the people around me.
It's security.
There's no security because there's nothing. I mean, there's a small amount of security in money. I'll tell you that. There's security in Christ, but money will only get you so much, and then it can all be taken away. I've watched people who have tons of money, millionaires, who literally get sick with cancer, and they're like, I've wasted my life chasing this money. So you really got to change your focus on what you're looking for in life, because the whole money thing in America is like, it's way over the top. Like everybody's trying to outdo the next person. Do you not see that, John?
100%. There's a word, it's called contentment.
Yeah.
Paul talks about, I can be content when I had plenty, and I can be content when I had little.
Yep.
Because he's content with God, and he's content with his relationship. And yes, he can enjoy some blessing when he's got it, and he can work at taking care of himself when he doesn't. God will provide a way either way. And the chasing the next thing never satisfies you. So when people get it, when they go from the 40-inch to the 50-inch to the 65-inch TV, that's going to be it. No. If you're chasing the next thing, it's because you got a God-sized hole in your heart.
Yep.
And God's who you should be chasing, and that's why you don't have contentment. And once you realize that at any level you can be content, whether you make $10 an hour or $100 an hour, you can be content because you have God in your life, then all the rest of that stuff fades away because it's irrelevant to the way we should be living our lives. America has gotten so rich, that's why we turn away from God. America has gotten so rich, that's why we complain about everything. Think about all the things that people are doing in life because they want to try something different. There's the furries, and then there's all the genders and all the other things that people are trying to do.
Here we go.
I mean, he's not wrong.
No.
You see that, and you shake your head and you go, why is that? Well, we've gotten so rich that people's minds have to go somewhere else. I no longer have to conquer this. I need to conquer something else. And so all these abnormalities start taking place, and people are not content. They have God-sized holes in their heart, and that causes them to deviate to something else because they're looking for something that's, well, I don't need food and water. I don't need shelter. I don't need clothing. I don't need transportation. I don't need anything. All my needs are supplied, so I've got to go over here and find something else. All right, I'll quit ranting.
No.
Something
Well, I
else
mean, you're
you-
right. The contentment part.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what's today's definition of the American dream?
Get rich quick.
Well, so like, in the ag sector, we talk about that all the time, and more, like the 30 to 40-year-olds that are getting into it, like that question's asked constantly. We're always throwing that around. And it's kind of like a, funny haha, but it's not. It's like, what's the American dream? To pass crippling debt on to your kids? Is the American dream to be $1 million in debt so you can be there? Like that's, what is it? Where does it lie now?
Yeah.
Because is that the only way to attain this? I mean, but outside of ag, what is the true American dream? It's probably not flipping burgers on the 4th of July with your 2 kids running around your modest home with a nice vehicle and clocking in, clocking out.
Everybody wants to own a mansion. Nobody wants to work for anything anymore. And I think we kind of hit on that a little bit earlier about, going to school and working, being able to pay for everything. Nobody wants to work anymore. Nobody wants to put effort into their lives. They all want to go play the lottery, or they all want to go win the slot machine, or they want to have that once in a lifetime experience on YouTube and go crazy. Like, they want to put the least amount of effort into what they are doing and have the absolute best outcome.
But what's the outcome? That's the question I'm asking.
So it depends on what generation. So you ask someone older like me what the American dream is. It's to own your own house.
Outright, no debt?
Well,
is that what you're getting at?
For me it is, yeah. But I mean, that's not the American dream for somebody young. Owning a house is no longer a big deal because they grew up in a nice house and they need something nicer than their parents. I begrudge nobody anything to be able to buy something nicer than their parents. My daughter lives in a house that's much nicer than the house I live in, but I'm content. I don't need bigger, better. She's younger, she's raising kids, and they're wanting to be upwardly mobile, and we have these conversations. But on the flip side, I'm content where I'm at, and I live out in the country with neighbors 3/4 mile away, and I could enjoy my life and not need all that rat race. But guess what? When I was 30 years old, I wanted a $500,000 home. I wanted one nicer than the one my mom and dad had. I was chasing that dream. I was after that stuff, and it took some time to realize none of that matters. Here's the other thing. I'm listening to you guys talk, and I'm thinking, if I could tell my younger self something, Kyle, I'd say, at 30 years old, if you'd get zero debt starting then going forward, when you're 60, you'll have everything you want and think you should have, and all your friends will all have $300,000 to $500,000 in debt when they're at 60. You're going to be debt free, and you're going to have everything you want and not owe anybody anything for it. But you can't hardly tell someone who's 30 years old.
Here's my problem.
Because they want to listen.
The day I clock out of farming is the day I die.
Yeah.
Well, we want that instant gratification, right? We want that boat and we want it now. So I'm going to finance that boat instead of, okay, well, it costs X amount of dollars, so let me save up for a few years or whatever I need to do and then buy that boat. No, I want to enjoy it now. So I'm going to finance it, and I'm going to pay 10% plus whatever in interest. So I'm going to end up paying $10,000, $15,000 more just in interest payments on that boat than what I would have if I would have just saved on. So we want to do this stuff, but we want it now, and we don't want to wait. We don't want to put in the work and actually save for it so we can maintain that debt free. I think it's just a way. I honestly, I mean, I could be sound like that old, the old guy or whatever. Is just I blame society for everything, but I think that's just the way that we're getting is that society is pushing. Like, go ahead and get that and get it now.
Yeah.
Put on your charge card. Your credit card's not free money. You're going to be paying 20-something% interest on those payments, and you're going to be buying that thing 3 or 4 times over by the time everything's all said and done. I think right now I'm to that point. I still got about maybe 20 years or so before I hit retirement, but I'm starting to really think about retirement more. And I hear other people talking about like what they want to do in retirement, and I would like to travel and all that stuff too, but they want to do all this stuff and how they have to have like be able to have $5,000 to $10,000 a month just to get by. I'm like, my goal for retirement is if I can be debt free.
Yeah.
I want to be debt free. I don't want to have to retire from my job and turn around and get another job just to maintain my quality of life. And I think that goes right back to what you're saying with contentment. Are you content with what you got, or do you want to keep chasing the more expensive stuff for the next latest and greatest thing? And
it's really hard with social media. I try and tell people, you see less than 2% of somebody's life on social media, less than 2%. And it's all been Photoshopped. Think about it. They took 27 pictures to get the right one. So
if you can see Jim's face right now,
he's in the zone.
They spend an hour to get that picture so they can make you jealous.
Yeah.
And you think their life is perfect. No, because the sun was just right. The sunset was perfect over the water and had the background and the view and all the stuff.
And that's not even the picture. It's all the special effects that they add to it. And they can shrink things or make things bigger.
I call it Photoshop. Sorry, showing my age.
Photoshop. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Thing.
That's the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So they make you think that, and then you think, why can't I have that? Well, you have that. Just look around. Just take a little time to value what you have. People who stop and count their blessings, and this is something that I do regularly that I think people miss out on. When I'm having a bad day and I get upset about something, I think, and I have a friend who reminds me that those are first world problems there, Jim.
Yep. There's a lot of people that they don't realize just how good they have it.
Yeah.
All right. I need you to help me on this one, Jim. So my grandpa, when I first got to the farm, he was a real stickler on money. And I went to Napa to pick up some oil filters. I just charged him. And I get back, and he goes, "Where's the receipt?" I said, "Well, I just charged it." "Well, we ain't doing that." He grabbed his phone up, and he dialed in, and he called up there and said, "What'd you charge me for these filters?" We got two of them. It's like $22. And they were like, "Well, $22. And he goes, "What would be the price if I paid cash?" They said like 18 something. He gave me the cash, and then he sent me back. He said, "My grandson's coming back. He made a mistake." And that's, to the penny. He would haggle at the gas station on the gas price until they'd finally give him a bowl of soup to get him out of there. But he felt like that was making his gas cheaper. But where I need your help on this is it was one of the Psalms. I'm not sure which one it was, but he'd tell it to me all the time. He'd say, "Aaron, thou shalt not want. Thou shalt not want to buy a new combine. Thou shalt not want to farm the neighbor's ground. Thou shalt not want a pickup truck. Thou shalt not want, Aaron." And is that the 23rd?
I think
It'd say, "He leads me to green grass.
Yeah.
He makes me
the Psalm 23.
cool water."
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
But that's who he was. That's how he was.
What a great grandfather that you had, and what a great teacher.
And this was kind of his deal. And he's gone now, but he ran that farm on all cash.
Yeah. So you bring up cash. So let's talk about credit, because we haven't talked about that yet. So you're taught from a young age, you got to build credit, you got to build credit, you got to build credit. You'll never get a house if you don't build credit. And I'm here to tell you that's a lie. I was in the mortgage business for a lot of years, and you can do manual underwriting. What is manual underwriting? That means if you're paying rent to somebody and you're paying 2 utilities, you got 3 lines of credit right there.
Yep.
And those are your 3 lines of credit. You do not need a credit score. You need a down payment. And if you're doing manual underwriting, you're going to need somewhere between 10 and 20% down. And the more you have down, the better. And oh, by the way, if you're buying a house and you put 20% down, you avoid something called PMI, private mortgage insurance, which is about $75 per $100,000 loan, $75 per month you're paying to the bank, so that in case you default, they get paid. It's not insurance for you. It's insurance for the bank that you get to pay for. And then, oh, by the way, if you do a 30-year mortgage instead of a 15, you spend an extra third of money that you wouldn't have in interest. So if you do a 15-year mortgage, your payment might be $200 a month higher, but you're going to save $80,000 in interest. And guess what? You'll be debt free in half the time. Because on a 30-year mortgage, on $1,000 on a 7% interest rate, you're paying somewhere in the neighborhood of 95% interest on your payment, and about 5% goes to principal. So this thing about borrowing money, and you're thinking about your grandpa paying cash. You know, I can tell you, my daughter probably was not happy with me when she was 12, and I started trying to teach her about money, and I made her go through Dave Ramsey when she was 18. She never had a credit card, never had a credit, and bought a house with 15% down. And how'd she save that 15%? She got jobs, and she got extra jobs, and I just told her. She goes, well, I need a house. I need a house. I need a house. That's great. Put you a down payment. And for like 4 years, she's like, are you sure this is going to work, Dad? Everybody's telling me I need to get credit. Everybody's telling me I need to borrow money on a car. She's never borrowed money on a vehicle. She's paid cash for all her vehicles. She's 33 years old today. Today is her birthday. 33 years old.
And you're here.
Happy birthday.
Tell her happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday. And I did. And she's had 2 loans in her life, her first house and then her second house. And oh, by the way, because she did the 15-year fixed mortgage on her first house, she put down well over 35% on the next house, which brings her payment way down. And no car payments and no credit cards. And I'm bragging on my daughter, but it's because you look at me and say, look at his face, look at the way Jim's talking about money. Well,
He's a financial analyst. He knows what he's talking
I did
about.
it the wrong way for some time.
But the reason Jim's bragging about his daughter on this is the same reason that I want everyone out there to have that same success in their life. Because I watched money stress my parents out. My dad made good money. He worked at General Motors. We had plenty. And I watched it, you know, chasing the shiny stuff and just feeling stressed all the time because it was like paycheck to paycheck. And it just, for me, it didn't make sense growing up. When I got older, I was like, whoa, Dad made good money and this didn't make sense. Why are we? So I did everything totally different. I stayed out of debt. I never had debt except for my very first house. And my wife and I, first of all, I will say, if you're young and you get married and you love somebody and you're willing to stay married to them your whole life, that is a wealth building tool. Mm-hmm. Because if you stay married to your wife, kids is a different story, but being married is a wealth building tool. And I think you can look that up, that couples that stay married and work together, they can build a lot more wealth. So it can keep you out of debt. It can keep 2 people working, especially if you are willing to work extra hours and that kind of stuff. And you can get ahead. I'm telling you, I didn't have a college education. I got out. I was debt-free my entire life, if I'm honest. So I've never had
married
debt.
At 19 and
I've never had debt, not for my homes, not for my cars, not for anything. I don't have a college education. But staying out of debt, and if everybody was like, well, how much do you make? You must make like $250,000 a year. I don't make that kind of money. I make decent money. But if you change your desires of your heart, let's say I knew some of my family had double wide trailers to start out with, or single wide trailers, actually. Some of the wealthiest ones that I know had a single wide trailer. They're multimillionaires, you know, and they had a single wide trailer that they lived in, and they were content in that and work from there as a married couple. If you do those kinds of things, you can get ahead. You know, farming's a different story. Farming is a totally different story because there's huge amounts of debt to even start. But for the rest of the world, it's not. It's just what you're content with. If you can, I drive an 02 truck, an 03 Ford Ranger, and an 05. I have 3 of them just in case I have to work on one, but you can get ahead if you change your desire. Like, I don't worry about what somebody puts on Facebook. They can put out there that on Facebook that they have these fancy things and all this stuff. That's not what I'm interested in. I'm interested in time with my family, you know, those kinds of things. And yes, chasing it when I was young there were some benefits to that. I will say Dave Ramsey probably has that kind of mentality when you're young, preparing, thinking about. To be honest, I thought about my children. There was a thing that when I was young, I heard, you know, it's in the Bible. It talks about leaving an inheritance for your children's children. And there's a lot of meanings behind that. So it's like I think it's is it
Proverbs 13:22.
And you can think about that in a multitude of different ways. It can be leaving Jesus Christ for your kids, and your grandkids and all that. It can be not leaving them burdens. So working your life to not leave your family burdens. There's a lot of things that go into that, but I wanted to make sure that I took care of my kids in that way. So staying out of debt and not just watching my family and how they did things with debt, I was like, I don't want that for my kids. I don't want that for my family. And going that route has proven to be, Dave Ramsey's 100% right. Humble yourself, humble your desires, and start picking away at just ask the people around you who are successful. And that's the best way to do it, is like, how do I do this without going into all this debt? And then when they tell you that this is what it's going to take, listen to them, because that's the truth.
And you're probably not going to like it.
Yeah, it's going to be tough.
Because it's going to be a lot of work.
So right along with what you guys are saying, the last probably 6 or 8 months, my wife and I have decided to try kind of a quasi Ramsey it. And, it's not easy, but it's doable. And we now have 0 car payments. And our only debt.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We have our mortgage and student loans. And then, just like living. It can be done. But I'll tell you what, it's not because we're some great financial analysts and we make all this money and da-da-da-da. All that happened after my wife come off maternity leave and didn't have her job that wiped out a lot of our income. And what I'm getting at with this is it's nothing we did. God just made a way. Once you change I feel like once we changed our hearts and had the conversation of, we bought a minivan. We paid cash for a minivan. And that was something that my wife always said, I'm never going to drive a minivan. And I was like, hey, I'll drive an old man van. There ain't nothing wrong with that. Yeah. But we had that conversation and we prayed on it constantly. And we just put our heads together. And it's not like God just gave us a surplus or any big things changed and moved, but we had exactly what we needed. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly when we needed it. And it just worked out.
And think about this. That goes right to the parable of the talents. The more...
There it is.
Yeah, the more
I read
God
that the other day.
Trusts you with something, the more you're supposed to do good for his kingdom with it.
See, and I've been wrestling with that one hard.
Yeah.
Because when I read that, I think, God says, go spend some money. All right. Go buy some cows and let's turn a crop and let's run it back, But, on the other side, it's like,
let's talk about cows. Okay. You started off with a couple cows, right?
Yes.
And so how long will it take you to build a herd if you start with a couple cows and you, rented ground before buying ground and you did a business.
Couple as in like 2.
Yeah, as in 2, and then you're going to breed them, and you're going to raise a herd, and you're going to sell some off to get expenses to pay for the rent, cash rent, and you're going to do that. How long is that going to take you? It's going to take
long time.
Yeah. Is it going to take you 10 years, 15 years?
Yeah.
But think about this. You borrow that $1 million today, and you get everything right now. You know what you'll have in 15 years?
A whole lot of debt.
About $500,000 still in debt, and the herd size would be about the same. I know it's hard. I get it.
Yeah.
I know it's hard.
There's a lot of different.
I get it.
There's a lot of other variables to that.
But that's the thing.
Genetic progression.
But if you're in God's plan and you're doing what God's leading you to do, he's going to bless that plan. He's not going to bless your plan of going out and going into debt. God talks negatively about debt. The borrower is slave to the lender. Okay? Think about this. They're slaves all throughout history.
Scriptures.
All throughout history, the borrower is slave to the lender. They're slaves all throughout history. What kind of life did they have? Not very good. Let's think about coming out of Egypt. What were they? They were getting beat down on hard. They got all their materials taken away and had to make twice as many bricks a day because Pharaoh was going to teach them a lesson because they were getting so numerous. He was afraid they were going to rise up, so he was going to beat down on them when Moses shows up, right? and they're slaves. So when the Bible says that the borrower is slave to the lender, you have those same shackles. And your idea of getting the $1 million now and having the herd you want right away versus that 15-year build time, I get it. It's instant gratification, but hindsight's 20/20. I chase that dream. I promise you, I grew up on OPM, other people's money. That's the way I was trained. My dad said, borrow for everything you can. You borrow money, money's cheap. Money's cheap. Just borrow money. Just borrow money. My dad had 10 different businesses. Only 2 of them were successful. So the money he borrowed for the other 8 went poof. Okay.
I don't know. Here, I'll throw one at you here. I had a guy, real successful farmer. He told me this the other day. He said, when you borrow $50,000, that's your problem. When you borrow a couple million, that's the bank's problem.
That's why they call it OPM, other people's money.
Yeah. There is truth in some of that.
They're going to work with you to get that back. I mean, I'm not going to do that because I got sleep at night. But, you know.
Yeah. I think it's a good segue. Let's talk about a healthy relationship with money. We've done a lot of like examples of on the negative side of the unhealthy relationship. Let's talk about a healthy relationship.
Okay.
I think one of the first things that we need to make sure we do is we have to acknowledge that everything that we have and everything that we are going to have, it all comes from God.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Psalms 24:1 says, "The earth is the Lord's and everything in it." So you need to make sure you understand that you are not the owner of anything that you have, right? You are a manager. You are a steward of it. So we are called to be good stewards of the gifts that God gives us, whether that's money, whether that's cows, whether that's
the gift of life.
Following, it's everything. We need to make sure you're good stewards. Nothing is yours.
Right.
So one of the best things that we can do, we kind of talked about it already, is budgeting and living within your means, right?
Yeah.
Jim brought up a good point just a little bit ago. Just, we have the society of instant gratification, but if you are able to make a budget that will sustain you and pay for everything that you need, not everything you want, but everything you need, and you're living within your means and you're not stretching yourself thin, that's one of the easiest ways that you can go about building up a wealth for yourself and for your family.
The best thing my dad ever taught me was you tithe. And a tithe is 10% of your income, and you give that income. And I've spoke on it before. My dad said, because God will bless you and it'll come back multiple times. That's not the reason you're supposed to.
Tells you to challenge you.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that's why you should tithe. You should tithe because God asked you to.
Yeah.
And that's a heart relationship with God that you're showing that you're
trusting God,
trusting Him, and if you can tithe 10% to God and start there, you will be able to do a lot more with the money and the resources that God gives you. And so what happens is God loves a cheerful giver, right? So the more you get, the more you give. The more you give, the better your life is, the more contentment you have out of it. And so it allows you to think differently about things. I hear people say all the time, God didn't get that for me. I got a job. I made money. Really? God gave you the ability to get that job. God gave you the ability to get that money. He gave you the talents that you have, and He opened a door to allow you to have that job. You think about people who are chasing whatever else and not God and all the chaos in their life. Think about that. You got a friend or two or a relative or two, I know I do, that they're chasing the wrong things, and bad stuff just happens to them all the time. Why is that? And it's always something else happening. I bought this thing and it blew up and they wouldn't let me return it or whatever, and I had to eat it and it cost me money and they shouldn't have done that. I got mistreated, and something bad is always happening. Well, bad things happen to good people too, but when you're content with things and you're chasing the right thing, that is God first, all that other stuff comes in. God says, look at the flowers of the field. Even Solomon was not clothed in that splendor. You should not chase after these things. If you follow me, I will give you these things.
Yep. And that's one of my next points was like make sure that you're giving generously, right? So not just tithing, but we want to focus on, helping out other people whenever we can. Again, what we have is not our own. It's all a gift from God. So be generous with that gift. Whether it be, you can donate to food banks or, your financial resources. You can donate your time, all that stuff. You can donate to shelters, the homeless on the street. I mean, Jesus talked about that when he said that there's going to be two groups of people. He's going to have the people saying that, like, oh, well, you didn't feed me or you didn't clothe me, you didn't visit me when I was in prison. Say, well, Lord, when were you in prison? When did we see you hungry? When did we see you thirsty? He's like, well, those who don't do to the least of these, you don't do to me. And then the opposite. So if you see somebody who's struggling financially, or if you see somebody who's hungry or who's thirsty, and you're helping them out, you're doing it's as if you were doing that to God. So give generously. And Proverbs 11:25 says, "A generous man will prosper. He who refreshes others will himself be refreshed." Jim's over there mouthing that verbatim. So
I read Proverbs every day, so yes.
So, all right, practical tips. All right, so we want to have that healthy relationship with money. So let's talk about some practical tips that we can do to establish that healthy relationship. So we just talked about creating a budget, right? Make sure you know what's coming in. Make sure you know what's going out.
Let's start right there. People don't know what's coming in. People have no idea how much they're actually bringing in. If you look at your paycheck and all the stuff that goes to taxes and all the stuff that goes to insurance or the other things that are taken out of your check, you should know what that is. Because what happens is people ignore all that and say, well, I get a $4,200 refund every year, so that's free money.
No.
Yeah.
That came out of what you worked for already.
For 0%.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you just that was your money, but people don't pay attention to what comes out of their check. So you have to look at that. Look at your take-home pay, and then you got to start calculating how much that is, and figure that out. You got to know what's coming in.
That's
That's
a great
my
point.
mind? There's companies out there right now and services that are finding 401ks for people that they didn't know they had.
Yeah.
Because they change jobs and forget to take it with
Yep. They didn't transfer it.
Like, that makes my head want to explode.
Yeah.
It's like, are you serious?
And Aaron, you just made a good point. Like, it's because if you are relying on that large tax refund check, I used to be the same way when I was younger. Like, oh, that's a good chunk of money I'm getting back for tax time. That's a refund because you overpaid the U.S. government on your taxes. That for the previous year, they were able to use that money to gain interest on your money for an entire year. And they're like, okay, we'll give this much money back to you, but they get to keep all that interest that they gained on you. Yeah. If you were to it starts when whenever you get a job and you set up, how much you're getting withheld for taxes, if you have any dependents and all that other stuff. But you get it set up right to where you're pretty much breaking even at tax time or as close to possible. That is ideal. Yes, you're not getting a check or whatever, or you're getting a very small check come April, but that's more money of your money that you are getting to keep throughout the year, that you're able to, if you're putting it into savings or if you're putting it into your investments, that you're actually able to get interest on, that you keep the interest to. It's not going to the government. It's something that's staying in your own pocket.
Yeah.
So
do you think, I'll ask anybody in the room, do you think that multimillionaires who have no debt budget?
Yes.
Yeah, I think absolutely they do.
Yep.
I don't think that they get to where they're at by not worrying about the amount of money that's coming in or the amount of money that's going out.
Yeah.
They absolutely budget.
Yeah.
That's how they got there. They wouldn't be in that position without budgeting. So when people look and say they don't have to budget, they can spend anything on they want. No, that's why they live in single wides, because they're content with the house they're living in, and they don't need something bigger and better because they know every penny coming in. Aaron's grandfather knew every penny, and if he could save $4 or $3.50, he'd save that $3.50. By the way, that was 20% on his money
Every time.
I mean, think about that. So, It's something that multimillionaires who have no debt do. Why wouldn't you? If you want to be that multimillionaire with no debt, why wouldn't you do it?
Because it takes practice. It takes work.
Well, and all that.
I mean, no. I'm not. Yeah, I'm not being like, I'm not playing devil's advocate here. I'm just saying, like, it takes work.
Yeah.
It's something that people have to. I mean, we talked about it earlier, but if you're gonna do something, you should do it right. I mean, that's kind of how I was always taught. And so when you're starting out your life, I'm the youngest one here, so I'm 21. So I'm kind of still in the transition phase between, being married and college, and then getting a new job and all that kind of stuff. And so it's always kind of like I need to ask around. I need to be like, hey, what do I need to do here? Or, hey, how do I not go into debt like crazy? How do I not sign the piece of paper where they're like, hey, you can have $1 million of debt, but you can have it all right now?
I deserve to sign it and figure it out.
Yeah. Like, how do I not do that? So I think one of the biggest tips for us, as somebody who's younger, would be to ask like my dad was talking about earlier, ask the people around you who are successful. And actually we were in our like D group on Sunday, and Austin was talking about how you shouldn't take criticism from somebody you wouldn't take advice from.
Right.
And so when other people are looking at you in a crazy way, but they're, 500 million in debt or something crazy. And by the time what you were talking about earlier, they're going to be like 5, 6, whatever. They're going to be in debt when you're 60. Well, when I'm 60, I might not be in debt. And even though you're looking at me or you're judging me in a certain way, I'm going to have what you don't when we're 60 years old, because I asked around, right. because I did it the right way.
So think about this. Multimillionaires have payments. Here's I pay to this savings account, and I pay to this savings account, and I pay to this savings account. This one's for my new car. This one's for my vacations. This one's for my emergency fund or for my house repairs or whatever. They have payments. They pay themselves. And they don't pay any interest. Mm-hmm. I mean, but they're still budgeting the same way you would with all your payments. And I'm sorry I rant, but the thing about figuring out a budget, first thing you need to do is figure out all your debts. People pay by paycheck. If you get paid every week, this check goes to this check goes to rent, this check goes to groceries, this check goes to the car, this check goes to this, and they don't budget because they just know that check comes. But what if you're sick a day and you miss a day of work and you don't get paid? Then people get caught up, and then they're behind, and then they can't make a payment, and then they don't understand. You should understand what your whole month's income is and what every payment you have in a month. So the first thing would be to list all your debts with their outstanding balance and their monthly payments and how much time you have on them. That ought to scare the heck out of you.
Yeah. Well, it did me when I first moved out. I mean, the first thing that my dad and I did was sit down and make a budget before I moved out, so I knew exactly what I was going to need to pay, exactly what I was making at the time. And it was like, man, this sucks. It was like, man, I was like, you're telling me I can only spend that much money a month? I'm like, I'm making so much more. But that was, me being a kid, being like, not really knowing, hey, this is going to cost money, and hey, you're going to have rent, you're going to have insurance, you're going to have groceries, you're going to have a wife to pay a whole bunch of things for. You're going to have like, we bought a new car, like it's not new, but we paid cash for the car. Like, we didn't take out a loan for it or anything. It was just like, we sat down and made a budget. And even though, yes, it sucked, it was living within our means at the time.
It was living below your means.
It was living below our means, yes.
Yes, because I think anybody who's going to set up a budget, I mean, there was a commercial on TV years ago about the hurdles you set for your kids, and like you can run up and jump over it and spin around and stuff. I like to make the hurdles when it comes to money, especially if you want to get ahead and you're looking. When you're wanting to get ahead, first of all, make sure it's not just for the love of money. It's to take care of the people around you. Yourself and your family and all that kind of stuff. That's where you should be looking at for money, or businesses, those take care of people too.
In the end, you should be honoring
But
God.
You should know where all your money's coming in, and you should be looking at reducing how much is going out. So the first thing you should do is go through and look at everything you have to pay for. And then you should know what kind of job you're going to have to do that. How many hours a week you're going to have to work, and then that's your goal, and make it tight. Don't give yourself $1,000 a week to go out and spend, to the movies, and, make it tight. So everything should be like hard to hit those goals if you're doing everything, and then go from there. And then you should have this at the end where you're like, okay, so we're going to save so much money. And then if you go over that amount, okay, we're a little over every month. You can make those adjustments.
But you're not
to
ever
your
going
budgets.
negative because you saved throughout the year. So whatever you go over in that budget is into the savings.
You might be in the red for that 1 month, but you're
Yes.
still in the black for
You're
your
still in the black.
annual.
So let's talk about the young guys that do make a lot of money. Because the most money I've ever made was my first job out of high school.
Why are you smiling so big?
Because I was so dumb with all that. I mean, I'm telling
Well,
you.
I think every kid's dumb if they when they first started getting into like their
Yeah.
first good paying job.
Yeah.
Like all the stuff that I can get
Yep.
that I really want.
It's like I worked 84 hours a week, but I felt like I was King Kong, buddy.
Yeah.
And, looking back, it was my buddy and I, we lived in a single wide trailer and it was $600 a month. We split it. And there was times when it was like, hey, you got an extra 20 on you? Because we're not going to make rent. But, I mean, we were just so dumb. I would kill for the bills I had back then now and all the stupid stuff. It was a joke. It was like, oh, yeah, get out of work on Saturday, but broke on, swipe it till it stops on Sunday night.
Are you 25?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, guess what? You can start right now, and by the time you're 75, you'll have.
Oh, I got $1 million and no cows.
No, you'll have about $3 million.
And no cows.
No cow.
And-
Cows are savings.
And
cows.
you'll have the whole herd that you can pass on to your son or your daughter or whatever, and they'll be farming too. And you just got to sacrifice to get there. You're thinking back 5 years and going, wow,
but
if I could be back
but
there. I have to
I
think
wasn't
back
the
40
only
years
one.
to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And making $3 an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big
Three.
money back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, big money.
Yeah, he's older than you think.
Was
Inflation.
Well, when I was in high school, minimum
there
wage was
wasn't
like $5.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there wasn't like minimum wage at like $15 when I was growing up.
My
well, it's not Illinois. I mean, it's not minimum wage here. Minimum wage still $7.25, but
My grandpa worked for room and board till he was 30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when he started drawing a wage, he made like $1 and a
Yeah.
nickel
wow.
because he got married. And it was like, well, he's got to start making money.
So I think the next good step you can do would be make sure you're cutting your unnecessary spending. Because we're talking about money going out, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
cutting your unnecessary spending. Your impulse buys, if you're
Telling you,
a young and dumb,
it's an
it
epidemic.
is a
Young
thing.
guys. It's just like,
Because you think, if you don't think about it in the sense, like in the big macro grand scheme of things, and you think, oh, well, that thing only costs $50. I can afford that. And then, that one only costs $20. And then that one costs 30.
Yeah.
It adds up quick. And then,
People-
like, where did
Nickel
that
and diming.
$3,000 that I had in the bank go? Because you're nickel and diming on your impulse buys.
Streaming services, it's only $1.99 a month. It's only $5.99 a month.
Mm-hmm.
But you got 27 of them, and it's $150 a month total.
And the other thing is, how
Yeah, that
many
is a very
times?
good point.
How many times do you sign up for like a free trial of some kind of subscription, and then you forget about it?
oh, yeah.
And then, guess what? Your free trial, when you signed up for it, and you put in your credit card number or your debit card number, whatever it is, they didn't forget about it. They started taking money, and if it might only be $1.99 or it might only be $5.99, whatever it was, it's still coming out, and you don't know about it.
Hey, anybody that lives in the area, if you stick a big paper clip or a coat hanger in the back of your TV, you can get 6-2 grit for free. So, you want to cut some fat.
You can. Those are called bunny
I
ears.
did,
Right?
I did that for 2 years. Antenna, baby.
He's giving hacks out.
Tell you what, you want.
That's the most redneck thing you've probably said on this
we were talking
podcast.
about
Yeah.
giving them ideas. That's an idea.
What
right.
happened to board games? What happened to card?
I love board games, but all my friends think I'm crazy for wanting to play them all the
We
time.
got to have friends to be able to play board games.
games.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hey, no, you got a deck of
Kyle's
cards.
going to help you out here on some math.
So I know a lot of people like their coffee, and they
my
stop
gosh.
and they stop at Starbucks.
Don't do it because this
Don't
is my vice. This
start.
is my vice.
So, and this is where people, like I said, change your habits, because $8 a day, for that simple cup of whatever you want to call it from Starbucks, $3,000 basically, $29.20. It's $3,000 just to drink coffee
You could almost
Is that for
buy
the year?
a heifer
for the year.
that. Maybe a bread heifer.
By the way, when
That's
my
a
dad and
drink.
I were doing
Water's
this budget,
free.
he did this for my wife because she
Buttermilk
drinks a
and
ton
tea,
of coffee.
baby,
And he
yeah.
was like, "Look at how much money you're spending just on coffee."
There's a guy I worked with at Kent, and he was buying a coffee at town for 89 cents a day. And he quit because that was too expensive for him.
Yeah.
He's like, I can't afford
I
that.
had a mortgage business when I was young, and a guy came in. He was older, and he was wanting to get a loan for a property for one of his kids or something. And I had a gas station Coke sitting on my
Red flag.
And he goes, "Well, you're never going to have any money in life. I can tell already." And I said, "Oh yeah, why is that?" He goes, "Right there." That's all he said. And I said, "How can I help you today?" Because I wasn't going to have the argument. And I thought, I had to think about it after he said that. I'm like, that's like 69 cents. Well, guess what I don't do today?
Gas station.
Gas station Cokes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't, if I'm going to have, I don't drink coffee, I drink tea. If I'm going to have tea, I make it at home.
And the thing, I don't bring the $8 up because I want to deprive people. I
You
just
should deprive yourself.
We're gonna put Starbucks out of business here.
I'm not trying to do that. What I'm trying to say is you can curb those or maybe just do it every once in a while as a treat. Treat yourself every once in a while because you should. But if you don't give up some of that stuff, you're never going to see the better sides of things. And when I say the better side is coming home to your wife, your kids, and having no stress over finances. And you just go out and enjoy the day. Right? Maybe you played croquet out in your yard or threw the baseball around with your kids or went out and shot. And you're not thinking about how many hours you got to go back to work because you need to make that payment on your car. If you bought your new Wagoneer for $120,000 and you got a payment on it, or your boat or your camper, and you got to make a payment on it, you can't enjoy the time with your kids. You can't enjoy the time with your family because you're constantly thinking about money and needing more. Whereas if you get rid of that and maybe you live a little simpler life, when you come home, the time with your kids, I'm sitting in this podcast with my son because we have a great relationship. The time that was put in, and there's nothing more important than time. And I say that because time is what we all want. We'll all pay a ton of money at the end of our life to get more time. Now, you don't have to because Christ died and he's going to give you, if you accept him, he's going to give you all of eternity. So that should be your main goal, is to get good time with Christ forever. But time is what you can gain if you get yourself out of debt when you're young.
Yeah.
And here's a great tip if you're trying to figure out how I could change my habits. Pay cash for everything. You want to go to Starbucks every day? Fine. Take the cash out of the bank on Sunday. Start your week off. Go Monday through Friday going and paying cash at Starbucks. See how that feels. It's going to feel a lot different than that swipe feels.
Mm-hmm.
Or do like a no pay or a no buy week.
Yeah.
You heard of that?
That's what I started doing. I did cash. I had an envelope. Kaylee and I would go out for our dates, and every month we would have a certain amount of cash that we would spend. And when that cash was gone, this is when I was living at home. We were done.
Yeah, that's another thing I've been seeing a lot of as far as like establishing a budget. A lot of people, they're recommending you have the envelope method. I think is what it's called.
Yeah, it is.
You have an envelope for the mortgage if you have a mortgage, or rent if you have rent, whatever it is, whatever payments you have, anything that you have to have go out, your cell phone, the internet, the electric, all that stuff. And then you have for your entertainment. So if you want to go out on a date or you want to go to a movie, that's that envelope. And then you break it down percentages. You have cash in every single envelope for that month. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, you already have all your bills and stuff taken care of because you already divvied up the cash. Then you have your envelope for entertainment or your envelope for coffee. When you run out, because this is part of your budget.
You don't go get more.
No.
You're done.
Or if you're in my family, I say if you can get it out of another envelope and still get to the end of the month, I'm good with it as long as it's cash.
Yeah.
As long as it all came out at the start of the month.
Because we are still on the envelope system.
Because you can
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I like that.
So we go each week and we get an amount of cash out, and we've got about 8 envelopes that go in that, and then we go monthly and we get a amount of cash out, and it goes into about 7 or 8 envelopes. And we don't do everything cash. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I live in the modern world, but I don't have any payments, so I'm not making payments to anybody. I mean, I've got utilities that I got to pay for, taxes that I got to pay for that I generally write checks for, or things like that. But everything else is cash. So going to the grocery store, I went to the grocery store this morning and got 3 bags of groceries for $100, and I'm like, oh.
Where'd you go?
Kroger.
Oh, that's why.
I get all generic. I don't buy.
Go to
any
Aldi.
name brand.
Everything's so much
But
cheaper.
it's starting to get just
No,
as
it's
expensive.
not. I've been to Aldi.
Bad.
I shop at Aldi. I know it's much cheaper.
Okay, depends on what you buy.
It does depend.
It depends.
Kroger does have some good stuff on things. So
I get all the generic, and regardless,
Marry a good partner that does all that crap for you. I mean, my wife's got a system.
Yeah.
Twice a year she goes to Costco. Once a month she goes to Sam's Club. And twice a month she goes to Aldi's.
there you go.
And I think she does fill-ins with a couple things from Walmart.
There's a lot of people that'll do that, and then they know when, say, we'll take Kroger for instance. They know when the meat at Kroger is going to get discounted because they're trying to push it so they don't lose money with it going bad and they got to throw it out. So they're going to discount it. They know what day they do that, so they show up on that day. They get a discount on whatever meat they're going to buy for that week or that month. And then they do the same thing for their produce, and they're buying their fresh produce at a discounted price because the store doesn't want to throw it out. If it's important to you, you'll look up this information, or you'll clip some coupons, or whatever you got to do to save some money. Yeah.
Kroger gas card. It's free to sign up.
Sam's same thing.
Free to sign up, and you save quite a bit of money in gas. I mean, you're 10 cents a gallon sometimes off of your gas.
and as much as you drive, that's a lot.
Hey, now.
Get up.
20,000 miles a year is not that much.
We get the 10 cents off a gallon at Kroger for sure. That brings up points. Let's talk about all the cards you get all the points on. What do you guys think about that?
Love it.
It depends on how you're using it.
Here's the thing, because I know where you're going with
If
this.
it's
I know where it is.
necessary.
You're thinking you got to spend money to get those points. I know that.
You're
But
spending it anyways.
hold on, that's where I was going to go. If you have those bills and stuff that you can put on that card that will earn you points for stuff, I'm flying to Florida for free because of the points I've earned on the necessities of things I have bought on my card.
Wait, are you talking about like rewards cards or like credit cards?
Both. Usually it's a credit card that offers a reward. Like,
Credit cards are scams. That's
well, like say my wife's is like a Kohl's card
I have
or
one.
whatever.
I hate it.
I
Use it.
I have my Bass Pro Shop or Cabela's card, whatever. Typically, what we try to do, it doesn't happen all the time, but what we try to do is if you buy something, because I'll use my Cabela's card because I get points for it, and then I can use those points to buy like another thing that I might need later on. And you can use it outside of Cabela's. But what I do is when I make a purchase, we try to make sure we turn around and we pay it off right away, so you're not making the interest payments on it.
So here's the thing. Studies show, and I'm not going to quibble over it. You can do it however you want, but studies show that people spend a lot more to get the points. They buy more stuff, spend more stuff, and then carry interest longer, even though they said they weren't going to. So there might be a few percent of the population that can pay it off, but high above 90% does not pay it off every month. And so what happens is the desire to go to Florida for free causes me to make a purchase I would have not otherwise made. And
You got to eat once you get to Florida.
Well, hold on. I totally agree with that.
yeah.
No, I agree with it.
If you're 100% disciplined and you're in that 1 or 2% that can do that, more power to you.
It's taken us 2 years to get enough points to fly to Florida for
But
free
when you
because we're paying for necessities through that card.
But when you get to a point where like, man, I'm only so many points away, I could make a couple extra purchases.
It changes
I
your
decided
view.
tonight that I need night vision.
What it does is it changes your buying
stuff I used
pattern.
to do.
Yeah.
Like, well.
It changes your buying patterns and it changes your mentality about buying.
I totally agree.
So I don't.
It'd be better to just, instead of making those purchases with the points card or reward card, instead just stash away.
I tell
little bit
Jeannie it
extra
doesn't
money.
pay to drive 20 minutes to Kroger to get gas to save 10 cents. So even though we have the card, if you need gas, go up to the mini mart and fill up.
Yeah.
I mean,
So what you guys are all talking about, I love all this because there's so many ways to save, right? But you guys are talking about cards, you're talking about going to different grocery stores and, insurance, you can shop around. There's lots of ways to save.
Fight for every dollar.
But you have to, and you only make so much, right? I mean, everybody pretty much should know, like Jim said, what they're going to bring home. So keeping as much as you can is what the goal is there.
Yeah.
And so everybody always asks, how much money do you make? How much money do you make? What they really should say is, how much are your bills?
What are you spending?
How much do you spend a year?
What's your
How much do you
DTI?
keep?
What
How much do you
cash flow
save?
look like?
Yes.
How much do you keep is
Yes.
the key question.
Yeah. I mean, someone might say, well, how much do you pay for your phone? And if somebody goes, I pay $10 a month. And someone says, you only pay $10 a month? How are you doing that? Well, I bought a track phone and it gets me all I need.
That's
It's
Dad.
actually not even.
That's Dad right there.
It's $9 and something.
Yeah, he
Frugality.
pays
For this
like
phone.
$200 a
Frugality.
year.
Who cares?
And you say, well, that's just
year.
one thing. Well, I mean,
How much are you paying for your phone each month? That's where you get turned around on them.
Yeah, and
like
if they
I'm
say,
paying
well, I got to
10,
pay,
you're paying 200.
exactly. So and then when someone goes, and that's where I'm saying that when someone says, well, I'm only paying $9 a month, and you go, well, I don't want a track phone. Well, then I guess you're going to pay 200 and you'll have nothing. And it's like, well, I don't want to live in a 1,200 square foot house. I want a 3,000 square foot house. Well, I guess you're going to have a $500,000 loan.
Yeah.
And instead of building, this is where I really like things like building something with your family and having it, you earned it. You build it together. It's when you build something, there's a sense of pride in building something. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
It's like, no matter what it is, like I just helped Tristan put an engine in his car. We saved some money by doing that, but working together. And there's a sense of pride in just being able to do that.
Oh, yeah.
Spending the time
Oh,
together.
Spending the time,
Until it goes kathunk.
saving the money.
No, it went really well actually.
Good.
And for
I put
guys,
together in a car one time back
doing
then.
projects together is a way to get to know each
Yeah.
other,
Yeah.
friends and everything else.
And if you go on mission trips and you know how to do electrical and plumbing and
Yeah.
construction work, and
Never close your toolbox.
that's right,
And he who has friends and family has great wealth.
exactly.
Yes.
So there are lots of ways to save from all different aspects.
And if you want another really good way of saving money is really watch how much you're eating out between restaurants or fast food or whatever.
Yep.
And I tell you what, if you're not really aware of how much you're spending on food or whatever, just have some kids and start taking kids out to eat with you, and
Ridiculous.
how much more expensive it becomes.
Order waters.
But don't be afraid to do a cost analysis on what a meal costs at the grocery store if you have free money via coupons sitting there looking at you in the face.
Yeah.
Like
You
if
got-
you're eating steak every night and you got a coupon for a $15 family meal deal at KFC, it's not rocket science. You know?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
something
There's
we
nothing
started
wrong with
doing.
eating out.
No.
Eating out's okay.
We eat out if we have coupons,
you know.
and it's the cost analysis breaks out.
So my eating out budget is $60 a week. I can go out
High
and have
roller.
maybe 2 meals with my wife in a week if we
But $60
keep
bucks
it
doesn't
tight.
get you.
If you keep
But
it
if we
tight,
go-
you're ordering waters while you're out, aren't you?
Right, but if we go out for
Drinks
dinner,
are expensive, man. That's why I'm hitting on
we
that.
might go out
It's
for
like
dinner and
$5
that whole
literally,
60
it's
bucks
ridiculous.
is gone in that one night.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But you got to realize I've been doing this for a long time, and I've been debt free for
And you don't have kids.
more
at
than
home.
15 years, and I don't have kids at home, and
Yeah.
and
You're not taking Tristan out because he always gets something.
All right.
and so I can afford to do that. But that's in my budget. That's part of that weekly cash that goes in an envelope, and that's when if we go somewhere nice, I say, okay, where's this going to come from? I don't care if we do it as long you just take it out of one of the other envelopes, or we're not doing it.
Yep.
And the one thing about eating out that I like, Brad said, eating out costs you a lot of money. It really does. Because what I notice at my house, and I'm sure this is true at most people's houses, if you got some leftovers in your fridge and you decide to go out to eat, somehow those leftovers never get ate.
Feel attacked.
They happens a lot. They get thrown out.
It
So
does.
they're your food bill just went up a little bit. Those free coupons. I mean, because you threw that food out that was perfectly fine to eat 2 days ago, but you're like,
They only do it at the
See,
Miller
but
House
I-
now because I'm not there anymore. And I
my
used to
problem
clean the
is- We
didn't have
fridge out. I'd eat everything.
Oh my gosh.
I would eat everything.
The
No.
problem is I don't know when it's bad, so I'll just eat it anyways. I don't know how long it's been there. Marissa will come in and be like,
Hey.
are you eating that?" I'm like, "Hey,
If it passes the smell test and nothing's growing on it,
Yep.
it's fair game.
Hey,
Yep.
tasted all right."
Yep.
We talked about tithing, so definitely make tithing a priority. I can't remember who said. Somebody said like just whatever you can budget or whatever. But I like the idea if you can when you're starting out your budget, you're trying to figure everything out, if you could put your tithing first.
Yeah.
Because when you tithe, we talk about 10% of your income, right?
I had a relative that said, I can't tithe. I don't know what my income's going to be. What? When it comes in, you take it right off the top and send it right back out.
Yeah.
You just do 10% automatic.
Because the way that tithing should be is it's giving back to God a small portion of what he's blessed you with. So that small portion being like the 10%.
And it's the first fruits. It's
Yes.
off the top.
It's not the leftover.
Anything else.
So I would say when you're making your budget and you're factoring in your tithes, make sure that it's the very first thing that you're trying to factor in. And then everything else needs to be kind of moved around or fudged around that.
Because that's putting God first.
Yes.
Is what it's doing. Yeah.
You're trusting God with the remainder of your
Yes.
finances.
Yes. And that there's a big part in the, I actually have a Bible verse here. It's, if I can find it real quick.
Well, while you're looking for it, I'll just mention that when you're trusting God, and putting him first, he's given you all kinds of things, and that is a good mind to be able to spend less than you earn so that you can save up for an emergency.
And that's the next thing.
Oh,
we're
sorry.
No, that's a great great segue. Is while Tristan's looking up his verse, is like just establishing that emergency fund.
And the reason I said that people are living paycheck to paycheck, because it was not too long ago I saw on the news that a $400 emergency would wipe out like 2/3 of people's finances. $400. Now, don't get me wrong. If you're in a position where $400 is a lot of money, I get it. But even $1,000 starter emergency fund is something you ought to have to be able to take care of an alternator going out on a car. If you can't fix it yourself, even if you can, you still got to buy the alternator, right?
Yeah.
Or a battery. Batteries are $150, $200 now for a battery. So you got to be able to have that cushion, especially if you get sick and you're paid hourly and you miss a day of work.
Yep.
That you're getting paid $20 an hour on an 8-hour day. That's a significant amount to miss out of a paycheck in a given week.
Yep.
And if you haven't budgeted and you don't have anything set aside, that's going to hurt.
Yeah. So, and we've mentioned Dave Ramsey quite a few times in this episode. And if you don't know who Dave Ramsey is, he is would you consider him like a financial advisor?
Yeah.
Okay.
Financial
but
guru,
he is a very biblically centered advisor.
Everything he does comes out of the Bible, and he went broke when he was younger because he was chasing that dream. Had 2 little girls at the time, and went broke, and God laid him out flat, man. And he said, "Okay, I'll pick up my Bible. Yep, I'll pick up my Bible and I'll start reading." And he practiced that, and people made fun of him. And I remember when he was in his old building in Tennessee, and he had leased a couple other buildings around him because he was growing and growing, and he was saving up the money to spend for a new building, and his new building was something like $50 million. And I don't remember how much, but something large like that. People made fun of him. He paid cash for his building. His business is all cash. And he's been doing it so long, he can make money at it because he's helping other people. And he used to have a millionaire theme hour, and people would call in. And back when I was heavily listening and following the principles to a T, I would lean into those millionaire theme hours because people would say, well, it only took me 7 years. It only took me 9 years. It only took me this. And I'm like, really? I've been doing this for 15, 20 years, and I'm still stuck. And that's where I changed. And, sometimes people need a catalyst. I had a big catalyst in my life. My parents went broke, and my siblings and I had to start paying for their rent and utilities. And I thought, I don't have 8 kids. My dad and mom have 8 kids. I got 1.
Yeah.
I don't want to be having one having to pay for my stuff. And I had a great upbringing, don't get me wrong, but I was brought up on OPM, man. Other people's money, borrow to the hilt. And right then and there, I thought, I'm never borrowing a dime again. And within 2 years, was debt-free of anything and everything to anyone of any kind.
Yeah.
Because I saw the result, and it scared the heck out of me.
So I would definitely recommend, if you don't know who he is, or if you're not really familiar with his work, I would definitely look up Dave Ramsey and then look up his principles. I believe there's 8 steps.
Seven
to
baby
8.
steps.
Yeah,
Seven baby
steps. The first one being the establishing of the emergency fund,
$1,000 starter emergency fund,
which it could seem like a lot to some people. It might not seem like a ton to others, but
if your income's
it's a start.
under 35 grand a year, they say 500.
Yeah. So it's just a matter of stashing a little bit away. Make sure you build up that savings account, and then once you hit that emergency fund amount, whether it be the 500 or the 1,000, then you're supposed to start tackling your debt aggressively.
Yeah, and how can you save up that money if you're stuck? Well, you can have a garage sale. You can still sell stuff on Craigslist or
Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah, don't
whatever.
sell stuff on Craigslist.
You can work overtime. You can get a part-time job.
Mm-hmm.
Part-time jobs don't have to last forever. If you're working 40 hours a week right now and your weekends are free, you could get a job 2 days on the weekend and start building up. And in 8 weeks, you could easily have $500.
Hog barns are always hiring.
Yep.
People's grass needs mowed.
I did that.
Yeah.
Did you find yours?
I did. I found the verse, and we talked a lot about how Proverbs has talked a lot about money and wealth and all that kind of stuff. And Proverbs 3, verse 9 and 10 says, "Honor the Lord with your wealth, with the first fruits of all your crops. Then your barns will be filled to overflowing, and your vats with brim over, and with and your vats will brim over with new wine."
Yeah, and that's the agrarian economy that was back. So let's look at the context of that passage. Back then, it was all an agrarian economy, so everything was all about livestock and farming and everything. So the first fruits wasn't cash money like it is today. It was your actual first fruit.
Yeah, it was the food.
And your animals and and
your livestock.
Yeah.
It'd be a lot easier if it's still like that.
There's something to that, a simpler life. You look at some of the religions out there that try to teach the simpler life. I study a lot of Amish when I look at gardening and farming and some of the tricks that they do and how they keep food over the wintertime and preserve it without having cold storage, refrigeration, freezers, all that stuff, because there's some stuff you freeze and it doesn't taste so good after you get it out of the freezer, but you can preserve it in other ways. But yeah, there's something to the simpler life.
There's a happy medium in there.
Yeah.
The Amish are also stingy as heck.
Yeah. Well, I think they,
I hope we don't have any Amish listeners right now.
You don't know that.
I know a couple of them.
I was going to say, now wait a minute.
You give them they ask to borrow your phone and they mysteriously know their way around that thing.
Yeah.
Like, hey, listen.
So you've established your emergency fund, and now it's time to start tackling that debt. That's the next step. The next practical tip would be tackling that debt, and the best way would be the snowball effect. All right. So that's usually picking one bill.
Picking the smallest bill.
Smallest bill. Now, that's what I was going to ask you, because you might have a couple different options. I would say, like, would you tackle your smallest amount, or would you tackle the one with the highest interest payment?
Smallest amount, and here's why. Getting out of debt is not a math problem. If it was a math problem, you would have already figured it out. It's really a heart problem and really a lifestyle problem.
Okay.
So if you tackle the smallest one first, you get a big win first. So let's say I got a credit card with $500, one with $5,000, one with $10,000, and I got 2 car payments at $20,000 a piece. But the car payments have the highest interest rate because I keep flipping these cards over and getting at 3%, but my car's at 7%. So I try and tackle the $20,000 one and pay an extra $100 a month on it. I'm going to be 5 years before I ever get a single. But that $500 ones, I pay $100 extra. 5 months later, boom, it's gone. Woo! Now that minimum payment, I roll over to the next one, and I just keep rolling up. And because you're going to be out of debt within 2 years or less, the interest rate's irrelevant.
Yeah.
Now, I could argue all day long over the pennies, but it's not a math problem. It's a heart problem. If you're in debt and you're wanting to be out of debt, Proverbs says, not only is the borrower a slave to the lender, but then shortly after says, if you are enslaved, act like a gazelle getting away from the hunter or a bird from the fowler. Go like crazy. So what that means is attack the debt like crazy. and start.
Run
with the
like your
smallest.
hair's on fire.
Yeah.
That's what Dave Ramsey says.
So you attack the smallest debt.
The heck,
and,
dude?
You know, it truly is amazing, the psychological win. Okay, the confidence builder you get from getting rid of the first one. And if you got 12 debts total and you can get rid of 5 of them in the first 6 months,
That's a massive
That's
win
huge.
for your brain.
And
Yeah.
and it's, I would almost compare it to like when you first are, excuse me, like if you're trying to lose weight or you're trying to get in better shape, it takes a while to get the motivation. But once you start seeing your progress and you start seeing that, hey, the scale's getting smaller, or like I look thinner in the mirror, my clothes are fitting better. It's going to give you the motivation to just keep going and keep going. So I could see the same thing with, you get that first debt paid off and you roll that, whatever you're paying for that debt, you roll that over to the next lowest one.
And here's the other thing. Any overtime you get, you put on the debt. Any second job you get, you put on the debt. Any raise you get, you put on the debt. I mean, there's all kinds of ways to attack debt.
Yeah.
And you know, think about it. People can be 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years old making $30,000, $50,000, $100,000, $250,000, $500,000 a year and still be broke and not be able to handle a $400 emergency.
Yeah.
There are people who make $500,000, think doctor, think lawyer, who still have all the student loans, and then they had to buy the big house and all the fancy cars and the fancy office and the fancy suits and everything, and you're better off than they are. And you go, but they make $500,000. How could that be? I would never do that. Yes, you would, because it's incremental.
Yeah.
Think back to your first time you had money and the first job you got. Then you got a raise. Where'd all that extra money go?
Spend it.
Yeah, that's what I was literally about to say. I was like, don't be that person who at the end of the year, after you've gotten a raise all year long, and it's a big raise, and it should be a substantial amount of money at the end of the year, be that person where you're like, why did I feel like I didn't get a raise at all? Like, you should, like, if you get a raise, put some of that money towards that debt.
So
Tackle that head on.
Had a guy tell me, every time you spend money, you should be thinking, is this the best deployment of my capital? Is this going to get me closer or further away from my goals?
There you go.
And I think about that constantly.
That's
It's
good.
a deployment of your capital. And he goes on to say that it's, you know, capital, you can trade that out with anything. He calls his time, his thoughts, his efforts, all that's capital.
It is.
Are you deploying your mental capital towards something that's minuscule? You know, not just money, but
And
being intentional.
Yeah.
And when you set your goals, like you're going to see like a lot of people have, like Jim said, some people are doing it in this amount of time. Some people are doing it in this amount of time. Set goals for yourself. Be happy with those goals. You know, my father-in-law once made a comment when me and Nikki were dating, and he, you know, corn was, I think, $2 a bushel back then, and it was really hard. Well, it got up to like $4 a bushel, and he sold some. Well, it ended up going up another $1. And I said, man, are you sad that you sold? And he's like, no, because I was okay with $4. It paid all the bills. I made good money, and I was okay with that. And you have to set.
What year was that?
I don't know. It's been a long time ago.
It's been a long
Probably
time
30 years ago.
Yeah.
20.
You got to remember, I've been married 27
Corn
years.
dipped under $4 last year.
Yeah. So what I'm
Just in
saying,
case anybody's
yeah, I don't know if
out
they're.
there.
What I'm saying is, when you set your goals and you say this is good enough, you know, make sure that that's what you're looking at.
Yeah.
You know, not what someone else is doing.
Yeah.
So if you set your goals and you say, okay, I wanted to get out of debt by this amount of time, and this is what I'm going to do. Don't look at how someone else is, you know, how much better they're doing than you, because down the road it can flip too.
Yeah.
So just stay focused on your goals.
If I was content with what I got at the time, I should be content even if someone else got something more.
That's
Exactly.
That is that whole content. Yeah.
And just make sure you're focusing when you are starting to pay off your debt. Say you can only afford an extra $10 to $20 to add toward that payment. That's fine. Put that toward that payment. Say your minimum payment's $100 and you're now paying $100 or $20. When that debt's paid off, guess what? That's an additional $120 that you can roll over into that next debt.
All right.
Oh yeah.
So that minimum payment of $150 just jumped up to $270.
Yeah.
So you're paying that off and you're paying that off. And then guess what?
270.
Now that 270 rolls over to that next debt, which that minimum payment was $200. Now you're paying almost $500.
Yeah.
So it's going to increment drastically the more and more that you pay off your debt. It might start off small, but just chip away at it, and then it's
Snowball
going to
effect.
compound.
Yeah.
So just, it might take a little bit, but just be
Well
frugal.
worth it.
Yeah. So
Yeah, you don't start out making a snowman out of a big round ball. You start making a snowman
little bitty
out of
ball.
a little bitty ball, and you
Yep.
keep rolling it in the snow until it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. That's the snowball effect.
And that's the same way with saving. Getting rid of debt, you're doing the same thing as saving. So set yourself a goal, just like the $1,000.
That is
You get
true.
to
That's a good way to
$10,000. And reward yourself. I would say always reward yourself a little bit, because going at something super hard all the time can wear you out. So always take a little bit to just.
There's nothing wrong with spending that first month after you paid that payment off, take that payment and celebrate with it.
Yeah, that's right. And
then move on to the
enjoy that part of life, because it's all in moderation. And you can find things to do that don't cost you a ton of money that are still fun.
Yeah.
and don't accrue more debt while you're trying to get yourself off
Right.
of
Next
debt.
thing I was going to say.
Right.
I don't know how many people I've heard of like, I paid off this debt, so we went and got a new car.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that's not what I'm talking.
no, I'm not saying that's what you were. I'm just
Yeah.
Re-amortize.
Or I've got into debt to get out of this debt.
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that doesn't
Debt
work because you're still in debt.
consolidation.
Yeah.
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 And I think most importantly, just make sure you're trusting God with your finances, right?
Yeah.
So pray for God's assistance, whether that's keeping you accountable with your finances, whether that's keeping you mindful about what you're spending your money on, just asking for discernment on the best way to go about doing it. I mean, just talk to God. I mean, it's all a gift from God anyway. Ask for his help, the best way to utilize it. So
Something that my bank offers, my wife and I's bank, every time we make a debit transaction, it sends us a text.
ooh.
And it's like, so-and-so transaction for this amount just went through. And so every time I get that, it just stings a little bit.
That's how my card is.
Yeah.
My wife and I share the same card, and every time one of us pays for something, it comes to the other through our phone.
It's just
The
like,
notification from
Keeps
it.
you both accountable.
Oh yeah.
yeah. Oh, it doesn't go to hers.
One more.
Break.
You ain't stupid.
Yeah. You kidding me? No, it's our own.
One thing that we also do, I was thinking about this, and we talk about saving money. Come Christmas time, I think that's a big time. A lot of people tend to go overboard, or if they're worried about money. And one thing our bank does is we have, it's called a Christmas club or Christmas account. But I take a certain allotment of my check from when I get paid. Every time that it goes into our bank account, that much, like a certain allotment, automatically gets transferred over to this Christmas account. And come October, whatever, every year, they take whatever's in that Christmas account and they transfer it over to my savings account. Mm-hmm. So I have that much money that I can go, and that's usually more money than what we are spending on Christmas presents for that year. So the rest of that money that you have is just, you can put it in your savings, you can pay off your debt, whatever you need to do. But it's a great way to save money throughout the year, and you're not even really thinking about it. And then you might think about it for the first couple months, but after a while, you're not even thinking, because you get so used to not even seeing that money hit your account that you don't even think about it. And then the next thing you know, come October, you're getting a big chunk of money coming over, and you can use that to pay off debt. You can use it to buy a present, whatever you need to do. So just little things like that you can find.
It's gaining interest for you, not the government.
Yes, it is gaining interest for you.
This isn't like tax return where you get something back, but they took all
It is in
stuff.
your
It is
personal
in your
account that you
yes.
you can't even touch it. It automatically gets transferred over to your savings account come October.
Yep.
So it's not like you can dip into it throughout the year.
Right. They put penalties on it to prevent you from doing that. So it's truly a savings.
So
I like CDs for some of that. Like
Yeah.
my son's money, I put it in a CD all the time.
Yeah.
do you guys have any other tips before we close out? I mean, we went and covered a lot. I know a lot of it was about making sure we try to stay out of debt and getting out of debt, but
Yeah.
Do you have anything as far as like retirement or anything like that you want to cover?
The one thing I do want to say is just, which I always say that, one thing I do want
Bottom
to say,
line.
the bottom line or whatever, is don't get so wrapped up in thinking about money that's what consumes all your time. That's what happened to me when I was young. And someone might say, well, you saved a ton. You did real good. Yeah, but if you did it at a point where you were sacrificing everything and causing problems in your marriage and all that kind of stuff, you shouldn't be having your mind on money like that. If that's what's driving you, you're missing the main points. Because I can tell you right now, it doesn't take any money to give someone the gift of eternal life. You can tell someone about Jesus Christ without spending a dime. And that is eternal inheritance. And like I said, time is the most valuable thing. If someone accepts Christ, you just gave them eternity. And like I said, I love spending time with my son and these men here, but I know I'm going to get to spend forever with them. Time is something all of us here have forever. And not just time, but we'll have extremely good health forever. So we're living in the best we can possibly be forever. And it didn't cost a dime.
I think that was great. Let's just end it there.
What? Jim always has something.
Well, I usually do. If you'll allow me, I'll pass on a couple tips.
Yeah.
So number one, if you've not budgeted before, the first month you try it, it's not going to go well. Don't give up. The second month you try it, it's going to go a little bit better, but not perfect. Don't give up. Third month you try it, you're going to go, oh, I can see how this works. And by month four, you're going to have it dialed in. And when you do, you're going to feel like you're in control of your money rather than your money just went and you have no idea where. And you'll be surprised at how much little it's not the $100 at a time. It's the $2, the $5, the $7, the $10, the $20 that eat your budget alive. And then the second big point that I want to say is once you're out of debt, you can save money like crazy. Now, there's a thing about saving too much money, and I'll just say this. God has blessed me so I can be a blessing to other people. And when I help other people, that's exactly what I tell them. God is blessing you today. I carry anywhere from $20 to $100 in my pocket at a time until I give it away. And each week, at least $20 goes into my pocket to give away. And I'm right. and
Kyle's sticking his hand out.
I was thinking the same thing.
And
like father, like son, right
so
there.
when I'm standing in the grocery store and a mother with two little kids is there and she's happened to pull 5 things off that, you know, I'm like, no, here. God is blessing you right now. Please go home and enjoy your family. And that's the joy of having money. It's not to spend on the bigger boat or the fancier house or the whatever. The joy of money is giving it away and seeing God bless other people with it.
And you'll never understand that until you actually do it.
It's so much more fun to give it away than it is to spend on yourself.
Oh, it's amazing.
And you never really fully grasp the impact that you have, or that would have on, say, like you're giving it to, like you were just talking about the mom who might be taking stuff off the conveyor at the grocery store because she can't afford it, and you're like, oh no, let me cover the balance. Well, you don't know how much that's going to bless that family going forward, or if maybe they weren't believers before, and then that little act of kindness was enough to get them at least thinking about it.
And that goes to Kyle's point. You know, telling people about Christ is free, but if you can financially bless them because God blessed you and you were good with the resources you're here to manage, then that blessing goes a long way.
It's never a bad idea to help somebody out.
So, you guys have anything? Luke?
No.
Awfully quiet over there today.
It was quiet.
So
I think he said one time.
About 3 or 4. I'm closer to him here.
Okay.
I got nothing.
you got nothing? All right.
Somebody want to end us in prayer?
Yeah, I got you.
Oh, wait. I
Are we
do.
plugging everybody?
You got
in?
something?
Yeah. Just identify your wants over your needs as well.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
big thing. And when, just to kind of add on real quick, when you are establishing your budget, that little piece of mail that you might get from your bank with your bank statement every month, instead of just ripping it up and throwing it in the trash can, save it and actually pay attention to how much money is going out and where it's going.
Or pull it up on your computer for those who don't get the paper statement.
I still get the paper statements.
Paperless billing saves you $1.14.
But then you don't think about it.
That's where I was at. Paperless billing saves you
money.
like $2 a month.
But if you're not looking at it, that $2 a month it doesn't matter what you're saving because you're not paying attention to how much you could be saving by getting rid of.
I get an email every month.
I agree,
don't carry
but
your
I will
wallet
say
throughout the
Caitlin
week-
Clark is playing right now.
Oh my goodness! All right,
We
Yeah,
gotta
she
get this
is.
wrapped up.
Dang near halfway through the game right now.
I know
Cares
it.
as much
All right.
about you as you do about me.
we'll go ahead and close in prayer and get you out of here. All right. So, Lord and Heavenly Father, thank you for the men taking part in this discussion today, and we thank you for everybody that's listening. We thank you for providing us with everything that we have and everything we need, and forgive us for the ways that we that we mismanaged whatever you've entrusted us with. Lord, please teach us to be stewards of the money and the wisdom and the generosity and the obedience that we have. We ask you to help every man listening to walk in this financial freedom and to gain peace. We love you, and it's in Jesus' precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you're enjoying this content that we've been pushing out, please make sure that you like and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and now YouTube. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram by searching for Raw Christian Men's Podcast. Please like, follow, and share this and all of our other content so we can continue to spread God's word. Lastly, if you have any questions for us or if you have any ideas for topics you'd like to have discussed, you can email us at rawchristianmenspodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.